The world of martial arts had become nothing more than a fairy tale. Jeonglip says that nobody takes it seriously anymore. The man driving says that it's better that way. People are uncomfortable with the idea that warriors with special superpowers could be hiding among them. Jeonglip says that the problem is that they have to go through all this trouble just because the people feel uncomfortable. The driver comments that he doesn't seem too happy with his promotion to section chief. The man says he's not happy because the last section chief died on the job. He scrolls through pictures on his tablet and asks what kind of high schooler becomes a Muram warrior. Then, the driver asks him if he's referring to the kid that they're going to meet. The man says yes, and that most high schoolers have basic common sense by that age, and no one in their right mind would choose to be a Muram warrior. Meanwhile, Hage Kang stands on the ledge of the rooftop of his school building. Just as he is about to take the step to jump, a voice behind him asks him if he is gonna jump. Shocked, he looks sideways and sees a boy, Seon Lee, standing. He wonders how long he's been there but decides that it doesn't matter and turns back to do what he came here for. He had already written his suicide note, so he closes his eyes and gets ready to jump when Seon says that he wouldn't do it if he were him. When Hage turns to look at him, he's standing much closer to him than before. It seems unbelievable to Hage as he didn't even hear him move. He sees the name tag on his shirt and realizes that he's a second-year student. Seon says that people see their life flash before they die. All the good times and bad times mixed together in one brief moment. But what people regret most in that moment is their decision to end their life. Hage asks him how he would know because it's not like he's ever committed suicide before. Hage then cries as he says that this isn't something he wanted to do. He really tried to live, but Kim keeps making his life a hell. Hage lifts up his shirt to show him bruises that had given him just because he didn't get him the right snack from the cafeteria. He goes on about how he made him do things for him, took his money and slapped him, spit on him and pulled down his pants in front of everyone. And the worst part is that everyone else treats him like shit even though is the one in the wrong. Hage had even tried asking his teacher for help, but all she did was tell him to stop causing trouble at school and learn to get along with other students. With tears running down his face, Hage says that if the world is this messed up, he'd rather not be in it. Seon says that if that's how he feels, then he would help him and gives him a shove. As Hage falls down, he can't believe that he has been pushed. He continues to scream and cry as he falls while seeing good memories from his childhood. Then he also sees memories of and the trouble he put him through. Hage keeps thinking that he could have hit at least one time for what he did to him. Everything goes dark, and when he wakes up, Hage is on a bed in the nurse's room. Surprised, he wonders how he ended up here and if that entire thing was a dream. Shows up and hits him again. He takes him outside and throws a notebook at him, saying that he read his suicide note. Then, he mocks him by saying that it was so touching that it made him cry. Then he hits Hage for making him sound like a psycho. As he keeps hitting him, asks how he ended up in the nurse's office if he went to kill himself. Then he grabs him by his hair and punches him. Hage regrets trying to killing himself while continues to smack him. He gathers the strength to defend himself and not have any regrets and tries to punch right in the face. But Hage misses his aim. Calls him weak and asks him to fight him. Courageously, Hage tells him that he won't just stand and take his hits. Hage prepares himself mentally to fight when he hears a voice telling him that he is brave. Turning around, he sees that it's the same senior, Seon, sitting on the wall. Asks him to leave and says that if he wanted to join the fight, he would call Jinho, the top dog of the second year, as well. Seon gets down and says that he would help since he's already here. He goes up to Hage, fixes his posture and teaches him the best way to fight. When Hage is about to hit Seon gives Hage's arm a tiny push, making him punch in the face with extreme force. Flies back and falls flat on his face. His friends are now angry and close in on Hage when Seon gives him another poke, making Hage punch them both in the jaw. The two bullies are on the ground and Seon comments how strong Hage is and says that he doesn't give to be a pushover anymore. Hage then gets on his knees and thanks Seon for helping him and begs him to teach him how to be as strong as him. Jeonglip arrives to meet the student, Seon Lee, a regular kid who became a legend in the martial arts world. Hage is still on his knees waiting for a reply. Seon says that he also begged someone one time, but all he got from him was despair, frustration, and an enemy that he has to crush. Saying this, he walks away. Jeonglip hands his business card to Seon and introduces himself to him. When asked why he came to see him, Jeonglip asks Seon if he knows about Guman Ryong, the Nine Arts Dragon. Then Jeonglip says that it might be a difficult question for him to answer as his master is known as the greatest disaster in the world of martial arts. Jeonglip continues to talk about how Ryong has become the head of the terrorist group known as the Shadow Warriors. They've become bolder ever since he became their leader, and now they're expanding their influence across state borders. And soon, they might take over the world. Seon asks him what he wants from him. Jeonglip says that he wants his caution and cooperation. He starts to tell him that if he knew anything about Ryong, but is cut off mid-sentence when the drink in his hand explodes and spills as Seon had thrown his business card, which sliced the can. Seon says that Ryong is nothing more than an enemy to him and walks away. The two men discuss their first impression of Seon. Jeonglip says that he expected him to be an amateur, but he's feistier than he imagined, and says that he wants to see him take a beating. In his classroom, Hage's desk is a mess. As he looks at it, Hage thinks that this is normal life for him, but after that experience of coming back to life, he doesn't feel threatened by them. He thinks that maybe they all pretended to notice anything because they were scared Yunho might go after them. His thoughts are interrupted by Yunho, who storms into the classroom and punches him. He keeps hitting Hage, asking what was it that he did to him earlier. The class rep, Ayin, tries to tell Yunho to please stop as lunchtime is almost over. Yunho is furious over her interruption and turns his focus to her. He tells her that his father is the top lawyer at Kim & Park, the best law firm in Korea, so nothing would happen to him even if he made trouble at school. He then asks her if he should show her what happens when he causes trouble. He gets closer to her when Hage shouts out his name and tells him that he's supposed to be fighting him. Even though he's hurt and injured, Hage gets up to fight him while trembling, and he remembered how Yunho started bullying him. It was because Hage had stood up for someone else being bullied by Yunho. Yunho grabs a desk and heads towards Hage, when suddenly, the phone buzzes with a call from Jinho. Yunho says he would call him back, but his friend insists that he take the call now. Yunho angrily drops the desk and answers the call. Jinho yells at him to keep his hands off Hage. The guys wonder how Jinho knows who Hage is. Jinho is the top dog in second year, so Hage wonders why he would help him and thinks that maybe Seon was behind this. Ayin goes up to Hage to check on him and gives him a handkerchief to clean himself up. Hage then goes to Seon's class to find him. His classmates say that Seon hasn't been in class for a while, and even their teachers don't know where he is. Hage walks out of the class, thinking that maybe he's a ghost. But it's not possible since Yunho and his friends saw him too. Suddenly, a burly man grabs Hage and leads him out to ask him something, as he had overheard Hage asking the students about Seon. But a woman who looks too young to be a teacher but doesn't look like a student asks Hage if she can talk to him. The man who brought him out tells her to mind her own business as they're just having a chat. She says that it looks like tough guys are surrounding an injured student, and immediately makes a call telling someone to come quickly as there are suspicious people here. They rush to grab her phone, but she sends them all falling to the ground. The man immediately recognizes her skill and says that she is a Murim warrior. The man then asks her if she's in a martial arts sect linked to the school, and if she's Master Sira Kang. She replies that since everyone knows who she is, they should just go talk in private. She asks them to follow her and turns her back towards them. The man reaches inside his pocket for something and hurls it at her, but she is fast enough to block it with her purse. When it explodes, the girl is distracted and the man runs away with Hage. Sira realizes it's Mahon incense, which is a type of anesthetic. She calls the person again and informs them that the intruders took Hage Kang away. She also asks the person to gather more people and search the whole school. Now that the man has gotten Hage alone, he questions him about Seon Lee. Hage asks him why he wants to know about Seon. The man says that it's none of his business. Hage replies that it's not fair for him to expect to tell him anything when he won't say a word. The man comments that he thought Hage was a coward, but he's actually got some guts. He then punches the wall next to Hage's face and says that guts will get him killed. Hage cleverly replies that if he killed him, he wouldn't be able to find out what he knows. Hage himself cannot believe how calm enough he feels to talk back to the man. So they start telling him about why they're looking for Seon. Lately, the Seonu clan has been completely closed off, living like hermits. So they're curious to know what's going on when the head of the clan makes a move. Hage has no idea what they're talking about and asks them to explain further. The man says that Seon is a very important guy in the Murim, which is why they're looking for him. Hage then asks him what the Murim is. He says that the Murim is a society with different values from normal people. Hage continues to ask another question, but he's cut off by being shoved against the wall. The man asks him where Seon is, but Seon himself shows up behind them and asks why they're looking for him. They don't answer and instead nervously move around. Seon warns them not to run away. The group decide to do so anyway, and the next moment, They all fly up high in the sky. As they fall, Seon kick strikes them. They come crashing down and fall to the ground. When they get up, they ask Seon what they did wrong. Seon says that they used a hidden weapon on the master of a clan, blackmailed and threatened a civilian, and revealed confidential information about the Murim. He then asks Hage to follow him. Hage asks Seon if he has any superpowers or if he is a Murim warrior too. Seon tells him to stop talking about him or it would get himself killed. Hage replies that he doesn't care because he saved his life. Hage talks about how he was miserable before. He thought everyone in his world hated him, which made him depressed, and that's the reason he went to the roof. But when he awoke from death, the world to him looked completely different from before. He could see that not everyone was his enemy. Even the class rep stood up against Yoonho for him. That was when he realized that Yoonho bullied him so much that it warped his sense of reality. And that's why he's so grateful to Seon for making him realize that. Seon then tells him to go to class and meets up with Sira. He asks her how she's feeling. She says that she's fine as it was just a temporary stun. Seon says that the intruders seem to be working for the Murim Special Affairs Bureau, and then apologizes to her, saying that it's all his fault. She tells him there's no need to apologize and that it's her fault for letting those intruders break into the school. She then says that he didn't need to get involved in this. To this, Seon asks her if it bothers her that he helped Hage. She tells him that the thing that bothers her is that she is meeting with Dr. Demon Hand in secret. When they meet up, Dr. Demon Hand asks her how the head of the Seonu clan is. Sira says that he is recovering. She then tells him that it may not be a good time for him to undergo Kai expansion. The doctor, Sangshik-ju, asks her if she's worried that he might experience Kai deviation, which is a negative physiological reaction resulting from improper practice of Kai. They continue to talk about how the head's been feeling lost for some time now, and that most people in similar situations would be shattered, but the head of Seonu clan is different. He was a force of nature even before he began Kai expansion. Sangshik asks her to forget about logic and trust him as he is the head physician at the Hongin clinic. Suddenly, a door swings open and standing there is Seon. He welcomes Sangshik, who simply pats him on the shoulder and says that was remarkable, and then tells them that they shall continue this madness and walks inside. Back in school, Hage is in class while the students around him chatter and get ready to leave class. However, Yoonho and his friends simply get up and leave without bothering Hage for the first time. Hage notices that they've been really quiet ever since they talked to Jinho. He thinks that anyone who is like Seon must be really intimidating and wonders if he would meet Seon again. Then, he stumbles upon Yoonho, who asks if he really thought he was gonna just leave. Back at Sangshik's clinic, Sira is surprised at how many needles he's used. The doctor says that it's completely normal. Sira tells him that if she didn't know he was Murim's top physician, she wouldn't think this was an actual treatment. And Sangshik says that if Murim warriors found out what was going on here, they would be even more shocked than Sira. Sitting there on the floor with all the needles on him is Seon. Yoonho beats up Hage until he's on the ground, completely hurt. One of his friends reminds him that Jinho asked not to bother Hage. Yoonho says he doesn't care and continues to beat Hage to a pulp. Before he can do further damage to him, his friends grab a hold of him and pull him away and tell him not to hit him. Yoonho doesn't want to listen to them. Hage thinks how Yoonho won't change himself despite what Jinho told him, so he decides that he himself is gonna be the one that changes and throws a punch at Yoonho. Hage is tired of being bullied and wants to use his second chance at life wisely. At the clinic, Sangshik is angrily talking about Gumanryong being a traitor to his disciples and then apologizes for being carried away. Seon is telling Sangshik about what the Murim Special Affairs Bureau has been up to. Sangshik replies that they're doing this purely because Seon is a disciple of Gumanryong and asks Seon to stay away from him as Gumanryong is not human like them. Suddenly, Seon looks away. Sira calls out his name and Seon apologizes and says that the energy flow he felt is bothering him. Sangshik replies that he doesn't feel anything. Sira then tells the doctor that Seon has recently started sensing and hearing things that the rest of them can't. She explains that earlier that day, he sensed the Kai of a student who was about to jump off the roof of the school. Sangshik wonders if it's related to Kai expansion. Still feeling disturbed by what he felt, Seon asks the doctor to come with him for a minute. He leads the way and brings them to the school where Hage lays unconscious after he was beat up by Yoonho. Sangshik-ju cannot believe that Seon was able to sense this energy from all the way over there. He thinks to himself that Seon is far beyond what he imagined. Sira calls an ambulance for Hage while Seon looks distraught. She tries to tell Seon that what happened here was between civilians and that he just met the kid that day. Seon tells her that he understands the situation Hage is in and that he can't turn his back on him. Suddenly, Hage is awake and with a smile on his face, tells Seon that he didn't just stand there and take hits this time and that he actually hit Yoonho. After saying this, he passes out. When Hage wakes up, he is at the hospital. Seon is sitting by his side, watching over him. He tries to ask him what he's doing here. Seon simply tells him not to move as he's just been bandaged him up. Hage then asks him if he is a stalker since he always seems to know where he is. Seon doesn't answer him and asks if he still wants to get stronger. Hage can't believe that he's offering to help him. Seon tells him to keep it a secret between them. Hage says that he would do anything to be as strong as him. Seon throws a phone at him and asks him to contact him with it from now on. He also tells him that he's written down basic exercises that he has to do each day starting tomorrow. Hage is shocked at how he can start in his condition. Seon reminds Hage that he said he would do anything to be strong. So, Hage agrees and Seon assures him that he would get stronger as long as he did what he said. And then he asks Hage to call his parents as they would be worried about him. Hage says that it's only him and his mom at home and that she works late and doesn't even know if he's in his room most of the time. Seon still insists that he calls and leaves. Hage opens up the list that Seon has typed out for him. He is shocked at the amount of exercises he's required to do on a single day. Hage thinks that Seon is kidding as the list of exercises seem impossible to do. Hage thinks about his day felt surreal and wonders if it was just a dream. The next morning, Hage looks at himself in the mirror and is shocked to see no bruises on his face. All the wounds from the night before seem to have disappeared. He then says to himself that the room looks expensive and must cost a fortune. Sira walks in and tells him that he doesn't need to worry about that and holding his chin, says that Dr. Demon Hand sure does good work. Hage doesn't know what she's talking about so she tells him to chat with her. Sira tells her that his bullying in school would be taken care of and also that a special teacher would be assigned to his class to make sure this bullying never happens again. She even says that a scholarship would be provided to him each semester. Hage immediately says no and declines the offer. Sira is surprised at his answer. Hage says that she would ask him to stay away from Seon in exchange for all those benefits. He tells her that he knows she doesn't like to see him with Seon so she's trying to keep him away from Seon. Then she grabs him by collar and slams him to the bed and pins him down, and tells him to think carefully before he answers as it might be his last chance. Hage replies that by seeing how much she wants to keep him away from Seon, it makes him want to accept her offer even less. She chokes him and says that she isn't joking and says that if she kept doing it, he would soon be dead. Hage tells her that he doesn't care because if it wasn't for Seon, he'd already be dead, and then says that he won't let anyone bully him into doing what they want anymore. Upon hearing this, she lets go of him and says that she understands why Seon is concerned about him. She then hands him a box of supplements and a gym membership card and then says that Seon is an extremely important person in the Miram world and if Hage ever put him in danger, she would do a lot more than just threaten him. On his way to school, Hage looks at the list on the phone Seon gave him and thinks about how he needs to exercise but doesn't know where to start. Suddenly, the phone rings and Seon is on the other end of the line. He checks up on Hage to see how he is doing and then asks him to exercise. Hage tells Seon that he can barely do one push-up whereas the list asks him to do 100. Seon tells him to just keep going until he reaches the target. Hage then asks him if it's a good idea to push himself like that. Seon tells him to take one supplement after working out each day, and then he would be fine. Then he tells Hage that if he isn't able to do the whole list in one day, within the next 2 weeks, they would never see each other again and hangs up. Hage thinks that it seems impossible but decides to give it a try regardless. He goes to the gym and sees muscular men doing their daily workout. Feeling insecure and intimidated, Hage tiptoes around to find a quiet corner to work out at. He struggles to do push-ups and is asked by a man if it's his first time working out as he's been trying to do push-ups for an hour. Trembling, he says that he has to do 200 today. The man advises him to just stretch and not push himself as it's his first day. Hage then tells him that it was his teacher who asked him to do this. The man wonders what kind of ridiculous trainer would ask someone to do such a thing. After completing his workout, Hage is on his bed, thinking how brutal that workout was. He tried his hardest but wasn't able to complete even a quarter of the list. He wonders if he should just give up as it seems impossible to get everything done within 2 weeks. He receives a message from Seon asking if he finished his workout for the day. Hage lets him know that he barely did anything on the list. Seon replies that it's normal, asks him to try the next day and reminds him to take the supplements. Hage takes them out and notes how fancy they look. They smell like herbal medicine and Hage thinks if it's safe to take. As soon as he puts it in his mouth, it melts, taking Hage by surprise. Hage then gets up to go wash up but falls back on his bed. When he gets up, it's past 10 o'clock. He wonders how he slept in so late and goes to wash up. In the bathroom mirror, he notices that he looks stronger than he did yesterday but then brushes it off as it's impossible to build muscle in just a day. Later that day at the gym, Paige is doing his push-ups while the men who saw him the previous night wonder how he's still able to work out. 2 weeks later, the men continue to note Paige's improvement. They can't believe how muscular he's gotten in less than a month. Puffing and panting, Paige sinks to the floor. He is exhausted yet happy that he was able to finish the whole list in one day. He happily texts Seon and lets him know this. Seon congratulates him and asks him to meet him at Gangnam Station as he has a present for him. Before he can take the bus to Gangnam, he hears a woman's voice. Paige looks at her and thinks that she looks like a celebrity. He wonders who she's talking to. She tells him that she was talking to him, leaving Paige in a state of surprise. Paige stares at the girl, trying to figure out why she's talking to him. She asks him if he knows Seon and then replies to her own question by saying that she knows that Paige knows Seon and tells him to not even think of lying to her. Immediately, Paige points out to something behind her. She turns around to see a cat and thinks how cute it is. While she's distracted, Paige makes a run for it and boards his bus. She calls him a brat and leaps onto the bus. Inside the bus, Paige is relieved that the bus arrived on time. He thinks to himself that maybe he didn't have to run away at all as she seemed like a Murim warrior too. As he's thinking this, the girl shows up behind him. Paige then wonders what a Murim warrior is and tries to look it up online. He's tried to read about them a few times but never been able to understand who they are. Suddenly, his phone is snatched out from his hands by the girl. Paige freaks out as he never saw her getting on the bus. Paige's phone pings with a message from Seon. He's sent Paige an address and asked him to meet him there. Now that she knows where Seon is, she asks Paige if she can borrow the phone for a bit, and gets off at a stop. Paige follows her, asking her to give him back his phone. The girl refuses, so Paige says that if she didn't give it back to him, he'd just take it away from her. She challenges him to go ahead and try. Paige is fuming, thinking that he may be weak but he's still a guy. And also, he's been working out lately. As he goes to take the phone from her, he thinks how he has no idea what a Murim warrior is but at least he won't lose to a girl. The next moment, the girl grabs his arm, cracks it and locks it behind his back, leaving him in pain. She then lets go off him thinking how strange it is that he's just an ordinary kid and yet he gives off some kind of energy. Paige tells her he has no idea what she's talking about and asks for his phone. Then, she grabs him by the wrist and drags him with her. At Gangnam Station, the girl is taking Paige to meet Seon. Paige warns her that Seon is scary and tells her what would happen if she pissed him off. To this, she replies that she's looking forward to it. When the elevator door opens, Seon is standing with a surprised look on his face. Before Paige can explain who the girl is to Seon, she spin kicks him and thrashes him around. Paige wonders how she's able to move so fast and quick. Even Seon is having a hard time fighting back. Paige wants to do something to help, so he grabs an umbrella and grips it, thinking of how to stop the girl. But she immediately kicks it, breaking it into pieces, and asks him to stay out of it or she would kill him. Seon calmly asks her what the matter is while addressing her as Ginny, and then asks what they're both doing together. Paige is stunned that they know each other. She asks Seon if he gave Paige primal panacea. She also tells him not to lie to her as she read the texts on Paige's phone. She then angrily says that they were supposed to be for Seon. Seon tells Ginny that he would tell her whatever she wanted to know later because she was making his guest uncomfortable. Ginny gives Paige a glare before turning around to leave. Paige stops her and meekly asks for his phone back, which she tosses to him. After she leaves, Seon apologizes to him for the chaos. Paige tells him that Ginny seemed upset and asks if he should come back another time. Seon tells him it's okay and that it had nothing to do with him. Seon then invites him inside and comments on how he's gotten stronger than the last time he saw him. Paige says that he's been following everything he told him to. Paige then asks Seon to tell him about Murim warriors. Seon apologizes and says that he's not supposed to reveal info about the Murim to civilians. Paige asks why he's helping him if he's just a civilian. Paige realizes that Seon is not allowed to help him and so thanks him for everything he's done. Paige says that he didn't want Seon to fight with his girlfriend because of him, and says that he doesn't want to create trouble for him. Meanwhile, Ginny is outside, hearing the conversation, and then tapping the phone. Paige says that if it's going to create issues for Seon, he wouldn't contact him for help anymore. Seon pauses before saying that the Murim is a world with people with different values from the normal world. Murim warriors are real but they stay hidden and live by their own rules. Paige asks why they stay hidden and Seon says it's because their rules aren't acceptable to ordinary people. It's a society where violence and murder are justified and a part of daily life. Seon concludes by saying that it's why it's better for ordinary people to stay away from the Murim. Paige feels terrified upon hearing this. Then Seon says that it's time for the treatment. Hage tells him he's not even sick, to which Seon says that he's not sick according to modern medicine, but when he does the treatment, he would realize how sick he's been. Seon asks Hage to take deep breaths while he places his palms flat against his back. Hage feels like a warm wave is passing through him and makes him feel calm. Then, Hage hears and feels something. He opens his eyes, realizing that he fell asleep, and sees a man tying a chain around his neck. Hage looks around to see there are other masked men in the room and Ginny. She tells them that Hage was just in the process of restorative breathing. She also asks them how they can call themselves Murim warriors. The man tells her to get out of the way or he would break Hage's neck. Hage is confused but remembers what Seon had told him about the Murim being a place for murder and violence. Hage fidgets around and tries to move. The man warns him not to, but Hage, using all his strength, breaks the chain in half and says that he wouldn't let them kill him. Hage is surprised that he has the power to break a metal chain. He doesn't know what's happening but knows that he has to get out of the place, so he runs away. The men try to catch up to him but Hage dodges them easily without even looking back at them. Hage wonders how he managed to do so. Then, just when he thinks he can't dodge them anymore, Ginny comes to the rescue and beats up the men. After she's done thrashing them around, Hage is stunned that she took out the guys all by herself, in the blink of an eye. Lifting one of the guys' face with her foot, she asks who they are. Hage stops her and tells that they should call the police first. She replies that it's a Murim matter and the Murim and the normal world aren't supposed to meddle in each other's business. The guy mockingly asks Ginny if the Seonu clan has become so weak that they need to rely on the police. Then they say that they planned this as they knew that the head of the clan would be away but didn't expect to see Ginny and Hage here. He then says that the head of the Seonu clan would be dead soon. Stepping on him, Ginny asks if Seon is in danger. Hage then hears footsteps coming up the stairs and informs Ginny. The man then says that Hage is right and that they came here to assess the situation and if something happened to them, the rest of their group would come for them. Before he can continue, Ginny knocks him out cold. She says that she's heard enough and that she would find who they are by herself. Then, they both notice that their phones aren't working. Ginny tells Hage to get dressed because they have to get out of there. Grabbing a helmet, he follows Ginny. A huge swarm of people enter the room and see that the men are unconscious. A man orders the rest of the group to find out if it was the Seonu clan that did this and asks them to not let them leave the building. Then, they look down to see an escape ladder. Hage and Ginny are going down the ladder and see that their phone still isn't working. They realize that they must have shut down all nearby transmitters. Hage asks her what's going on and she says she doesn't know either. She was just waiting for Hage to wake up because Seon told her to take Hage home. As they scramble to find signal on their phones, Ginny tells Hage to note down a number which he could call in case Ginny wasn't available to help. She then tells Hage that she would get the bike ready and jumps over the staircase railing. As he makes his way down the stairs to join her, Hage thinks about how he feels strange after waking up. It's as if he has powers. He wonders if he can do what Ginny did as well, and before he can even try, Ginny yells at him to come down. When he reaches Ginny, Hage finds her surrounded by a group of people. At first, Hage is worried for her but then realizes that she's thrashing the entire group of people with ease. When she's done, she tries to threaten them further by asking if she should kill them, when suddenly, a knife appears in front of her, and a voice asking who she would kill. Hage sees the man behind her and is frightened out of his wits. Hage wants to help Ginny but thinks that they're all Murim warriors and they would crush him immediately if he tried anything. Suddenly, he hears voices coming down the stairs. Seeing that there's people coming, he gets out of there and tries to find a hiding place. Instead, he finds a fire alarm and turns it on. The bell rings and the group of men are startled. The man holding the knife to Ginny's neck asks her not to move a muscle. Hiding behind the cars is Hage, thinking that he should have just minded his own business as he could get himself killed. Hage realizes that Ginny is capable enough to fight by herself and decides to distract the man for a moment. Hage is about to throw the helmet at him but the guy notices it and asks him who he is. Thinking that he is screwed, Hage throws the helmet anyway and runs away. The man starts to say that the helmet won't hit anything, but is cut off by the helmet smacking him in the face, sending him flying. He then says to Hage that he sees that he has some Kai in him. Ginny attacks the guy while Hage wonders how he got all this incredible strength. Ginny then shows up on a bike and asks Hage to hop on. Hage holds onto her and they race out of the place. Ginny is driving so fast that Hage asks her to slow down. She tells him that there's no time to waste as that guy is Mungi Ma, the Dark North Star. Hage asks her what that is and she says that he works for the guy that Seon is meeting today. Hage realizes that the guy was right when he said that Seon was in danger. When she's sure she lost them, Ginny stops the bike and calls Seon to see where he is. Seon sees the call and asks to be excused just as some men ask him if he is the head of the Seonu clan. They say they would take him to where their boss is waiting, and then asks him if they could hold on to his phone while he is with the boss. Seeing that Seon isn't answering, Hage tells Jinny to call someone else from Seonu clan to figure out where he is. Jinny says that nobody would know as Seon decided to keep this meeting a secret from the clan. She then tells Hage to not worry and take a taxi home. Hage says that he wants to help, but Jinny adamantly says that Seon told her to not get Hage involved in Muram matters. She then thanks Hage for helping her in the parking lot and also says that it was better than what most Muram warriors could have done. Asking him to stay away from the Muram from now, she zooms away on her bike. Hage thinks about how he still wants to help, but he hears a rumbling noise down the street. It's Mungi Ma and his gang. They drive past Hage and after noticing him, turn around and come towards him. Hage runs away as thinking that he's screwed. The guys ask Captain Mungi Ma why they stopped here. He tells them that he saw the kid from the parking lot. Mungi Ma walks down the alley where Hage is hiding behind a dumpster in fear. Mungi Ma walks around trying to find him, while Hage hides, covering his mouth, hoping that he doesn't see him. Mungi Ma spots Hage and Hage is sure that he is gonna die. The guys on the bikes ask Mungi Ma if he spotted anyone. To Hage's shock, Mungi Ma says that there's nothing here and that he must have been mistaken and tells them that they should leave this place. Then the guys ask him what to do about Jinny. He tells them that it's alright because the Seonu clan won't do anything foolish. Hage overhears this conversation and then Mungi Ma says that the clan may not be pleased to find out that their leader is in the Neon building in Yeoksum. After the men leave, Hage cannot believe what just happened. He wonders why Mungi pretended not to see him and even told him where Seon is. Hage thinks that maybe he is on Seon's side. Pulling out his phone, Hage decides to call the number Jinny gave him, but then wonders if the whole thing is a trap as it seems way too easy. Yeoksum is close by and Hage reaches the Neon building. Hage hopes that he doesn't regret sticking his nose in other people's business, but since this involves Seon, he wants to go check it out. The door seems to be locked and a guard asks Hage what he's doing. Hage tells him he's looking for someone. He gives the guard a description of Seon by mentioning his height and hair. The man then asks if he was looking for Seon Lee. Hage asks him how he knew and the man asks Hage to come with him. He leads Hage inside and grabs him by the neck and slams him against the wall. The guard asks him who he is and who told him about this place. Hage asks him what he's doing and the guard replies that he knows exactly what's going on. He squeezes tighter and asks Hage for an answer. Hage grabs his wrist and cracks it, leaving the man hurting. Hage then asks the guard if he's okay and says that he didn't mean to do it. The man wonders out loudly if Hage is a civilian or not. Hearing this, Hage realizes that he might be a Muram warrior and runs away from him. Running out of the building, he knows that Seon is definitely here and decides to let the Seonu clan know. Just as he's about to make the call, his phone explodes. He stops running and a man tells him that it was a good idea for him to stop because if he didn't, the next one would have been aimed at his head. Hage asks him who he is and the man says that he wants to know who Hage is as well and gives him a shove, making him fall down on his face. The man asks Hage if he doesn't know how to break a fall. The men talk amongst themselves. One of them asks if Hage is a civilian and another says that he just broke Mr. Gu's arm so he might not be. Hage demands to know why they're doing this to him and who they are. The man steps on his face, saying that if he's going to pretend being a civilian, he better learn to hide his Kai. Hage asks what Kai is and the man asks him to cut the bullshit. Hage then asks him if Seon is there and if he's okay. The man kicks his face, saying that he would be the one asking questions. The man then yanks Hage's injured face and asks him to tell him what he's doing here. Hage warns them that if anything happens to Seon, they would be sorry. Suddenly, they hear a voice saying that's enough. They turn around to see Seon, who asks them to leave Hage alone. The man lets go of Hage and Seon asks him if he's okay. Hage says nothing and exchanges glances with Seon until the man tells Seon that he should have been waiting inside for his boss. Seon then asks them what they did to his companion. The man says that they didn't know Hage was his companion. He also says that he thought it was gonna be a private meeting with the boss and he didn't expect someone to come with him. Seon then asks him if he's saying that it's his fault. The man stammers to answer and Seon says that since it's his fault, he's canceling the meeting. He tells Hage to get up so they could leave and the man screams at him and says that he can't leave as the boss would be here and Seon is the one who called the meeting. He also asks Seon if he's not afraid of the consequences. Seon asks him back the same question. He asks him if he's not scared of the consequences of doing this to his companion. Then the man tells Seon that he knows Seon used to be a hot shot but now he's just washed up and no match for his boss. More men walk toward them and Hage and Seon are both surrounded. The man then tells Seon to behave himself and go back inside. Seon tells them that he came for a meeting and not to be threatened. But since they insist on fighting him, he has no intention of backing down. Just then, a man with a girl beside him walks towards them and everyone in the vicinity clasps their hands and bows their heads out of respect for him. Hage thinks that the old man must be the dangerous guy who Seon came to meet. The boss asks them what's going on here. The man explains that Seon was leaving, so they all tried to stop him. Hage thinks how he looks like a weak old man, and the boss asks them who the boy is, referring to Hage. They tell him he's Seon's companion. The boss then says that it's strange because he senses the energy of a Murim warrior in him and yet he looks like a civilian. Then he asks if a civilian has been exposed to Murim power because that is strictly forbidden. The man then asks Hage if he could see him for a minute. He holds out his hand and asks Hage to come with him as he wants to see something. He's immediately thrown around by Seon and knocked out. Everyone around them asks him why he did that and if he forgot where he is. The boss asks them all to stop and asks Seon why he did that. He glares at Seon and asks if he's trying to get himself killed. All of a sudden, Hage is trembling and unable to move. Seon tells the boss that he was invited here as a guest and the man he just knocked out disrespected him and abused his companion. He also asks the boss why he's trying to find ridiculous reasons to fault him. Seon continues to say that he didn't bring anyone from the Seonu clan as requested by him and yet he came here with all these people. He asks the boss if he was planning to kidnap him. The boss does not reply, so Seon walks away saying that this was not the kind of meeting he was expecting. He then whispers to Hage and asks him to run when the fighting begins. He also says that he would do whatever he can to distract them until Hage runs away. Hage wonders how Seon is going to fight all of them alone. The boss then apologizes to Seon and says that there's been a misunderstanding. He tells his men that he would investigate this matter further and tells them all to leave for now. He then asks Seon and Hage to follow him and says that he wants to have an honest discussion. Seon apologizes, saying that it's not the right time for a meeting and says that he would come another time. The girl beside the boss tells them to follow them obediently. Seon asks her what if he didn't want to. She says that she would make him and attacks him. Seon fights back and Hage is in awe at what he's seeing. Suddenly, Hage's heart starts beating fast, but his thoughts are interrupted by the boss who comments that Seon holds up well even against an advanced master. It's at that moment that Hage remembers that Seon asked him to run when he fights. When he's about to do so, the boss tells him to show his hand. Without a choice, Hage holds out his hand and the boss asks him what sect he's from. Hage tells him that he's not a member of any sect. The boss says that that's what he thought and proceeds to place his hand on Hage's chest and says that he would remove the energy from him while Hage screams. Meanwhile, Seon is still fighting the girl when he sees what's going on below. He asks the boss what he's doing and the girl says that that's what she would like to ask him too. After saying this, she lands another blow on Seon and they both battle it out while the boss drags Hage away. Seon sends the girls crashing down and landing on his feet, asks the boss to get his hands off Hage, with smoke bellowing around him. Taking in the scenario, the boss says that he knew Seon was hiding his power. So that is it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.